Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to the ReliabilityU podcast with Brett Scott and Adam Lunt, where we talk about all things reliability. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to 2026, first podcast of the year. Brett, how are we feeling about this?
Awesome. 2026, new start, right? So
Yeah.
clean up all that crap we did last year and get better or
Yeah.
something.
It's kind of like when you suck on the front nine, make the turn. It's a whole new round of golf, buddy. Well, actually, to be fair, it's the second podcast of the year. It's just
True.
the first one of ours. We had the fortune of, was it on New Year's Day, wasn't it?
I think it was. If not,
The day after.
it might have been.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to go on the CMMS radio podcast. That was a real good time.
Yep.
We're having with Greg about that. It was, I don't know, it was weird being on the other side, but we definitely got to learn a lot from that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, that dude is just stand-up guy. Like
Yeah.
Willie, and he's like, man, I've been doing this a while. I'll help you however I can. He does things a little different than we do. Probably better than we do.
Well, like I said, during that process, we're kind of both thinking, what kind of pointers can we pick up here too?
Exactly.
And I think one of them is that we did seem to ramble a little longer than probably we should have on some of our episodes last year. So that will be, I think, one of our things to try. I mean, we're not going to stop it if we're in the middle of a good conversation. We're obviously not just going to say, okay, that's enough. Everybody shut up.
It's right here in my book.
But
I made a note. We got to slow
let's
this
try
down.
to keep them under that hour mark if we can, because
Yeah.
I know we can lose some of you guys. But even though we are very interesting, I know sometimes.
And damn good looking.
Right. So
I mean,
those of you that are watching, you have that benefit, obviously.
So, and I'd also like to say, I mean, obviously we're not sponsored by him, but I'd like to give a shout out to Woodford Reserve today. Brett was nice enough to bring a bottle of this over as a thank you. He's been pretty unfortunate. He had to spend the last week down in Florida, getting out of this,
escaping the cold here. So
this cold crap we have here.
So yeah, we're recording today. What is today? The 31st of January. So so we had some cold weather here in Iowa last week, and luckily I was able to escape for a little bit, see my folks, do work remote, and take a day off to get to the beach, and got a little sunburn. Luckily not on the face, but those are miserable. But I'm not going to complain because I was out in the sun, I was warm, that was nice.
And I got to spend some time with Brett's wood boiler, making sure his pipes didn't freeze up while he was gone. Which I think might have been where the Woodford came into play.
That was the thank you. Thanks.
He's like, hey, thanks. Now let's drink this together. I'm like, all right, done. We can do that. So a few other things, because I mean, it's been over a month since we've been on. It's just the holidays, get everybody pretty busy. But we were busy in the background as well. One really cool thing that we got up and running was our Architect certification. Yeah. Don't think we've got a chance to talk to you guys about it. I know there's been some LinkedIn posts out. We got through beta testing, went live with that. So it's a applied reliability certification for technicians. And it's available on the ReliabilityU website. We're offering this for $99. It's I can't remember, was it 70 questions?
I think
90 questions.
Okay,
yeah. 90 questions, 90 minutes. 70%.
Yeah.
That's where I was getting it screwed up. And, cover the gamut, everything from motor circuit testing, oil analysis, vibration, alignment, motion amplification. It's all in there. So we've got a lot of really good stuff. It just really, not only does it prove that you know what you're doing, it also, because you got your 5 primary technologies, then we had we added balancing, motion amplification in there as well, alignment. So it really, I don't think that anybody, including you or I, are experts on all of them.
No.
I mean, that's impossible, but this just shows that you have like the 30,000 foot overview of what the technology is. And it will, the way we design this, because I hate these tests. Side note, I did finally go and get my CMRP too. But I hate when those tests come back and they don't tell you what ones you got wrong. And they just tell you, yeah, you passed. No, you didn't. So I was, pretty adamant on this one. It's going to tell you what you got wrong, what you answered, why it was wrong, what the correct one is, so you can learn, because at the end of the day, we just want to make people better with this. So feel free to jump out there and take a look at our Architect. If you have some interest too, you can always hit us up, reliabilityu@gmail.com.
And I mean, of course, from both of us being on this side of things, being the practitioners, that's why that was the push. Is we kind of felt probably what a lot of you guys are feeling too, the same thing where You're like, they make all these things for people and it's got a lot of stuff on. I mean, you just did it. There's some stuff on warehousing and like
Yeah,
purchasing and things that like really does a guy that's doing we wanted the hands-on with
right.
the tools. That's what we wanted, is something to show that you know your stuff. And like he said, you don't have to, it's not a certification that you need to pass this thing. It's just, if you know just enough in each of these fields, you can pass this thing and
Yeah,
show people that, hey, I'm good with the tool part of this thing. The analyst and collection part of this thing, that's what I'm good at. Leave the warehousing to the people that should be doing that.
yeah.
That should be their specific job. So
And that is important information.
it is.
Just not
Just
for,
not for this.
not for this.
Yeah.
So we, yeah, definitely tried to make something, and we always welcome feedback as well. So if you guys see something out there, you're like, we'd like to see a little more of this, or even if you're like, hey, we're not sure that's 100% accurate. Great.
Yeah,
Please
let us know.
tell us. We're just, this isn't a get rich quick thing for us. It's just trying to share knowledge and get it out there. So trying to cover our costs. But I will say, just some housekeeping, we'll call it here real quick. A couple things I just wanted to mention. I thought it was pretty cool because I was starting to wonder, honestly, Brett, if anybody even listened to us. And I got a message on LinkedIn about 2 weeks ago from a guy named Mark Linsky. He's over in Ireland. And he's like, hey, when are you guys going to do another podcast? I've been sitting here waiting. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know if anybody in the States listens, but we're kind of a big deal in Ireland, I guess,
Found its way over there. That's
with
awesome.
one guy. But hey, Mark, shout out to you,
Yeah.
man. I really
Buddy.
appreciate it. And then he also gave me the name of a couple people to get a hold of for potential guests coming up.
Yeah.
And then and then last thing before we bring our guest on, I wanted to throw out there that on March 12th, so I mean we're 5-6 weeks out, something like that. I&E Technologies is going to be doing their annual roadshow. They're doing well, it's March 10th in Minnesota, and then on March 12th they're going to be over at the Johnsonville Brat Atrium thing there at Lambeau Field. Represent. I will be going to that.
Yeah.
We might even set up in the back and do a little microcast if somebody wants to hop on, do like a little 15-minute snippet. Might be fun to do, but I know there's going to be people from, and I don't want to speak on behalf of I&E, but they typically have some phenomenal, like people from Perma, Ludeca, RDI. I mean, they have a whole bunch of different people over there, Fleer, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you can really learn a lot. Well, they're going to be doing some breakout sessions. So it's always a great event. And the best part is, guess what they charge for that, Brett?
I don't even want to take a stab.
It's free 99, baby.
No
free 99.
No way. I was gonna guess $1,000.
Yeah, it's actually free, and Johnsonville brats for
Yeah.
lunch too. So,
There you go.
if you guys and I mean, I got no skin in the game on this one. They're just they're great people, and they take care of their customers. They're phenomenal to work with.
Yeah.
So if you want to, if you guys have any interest, you can hit them up on LinkedIn. You can also email either Eric or Laura or one of the Joshes. It's just like you can get a hold of Laura. It's Laura at ietechnologiesllc.com. And then Eric's is Eric at ietechnologiesllc.com. Give one of them a shout. They'd be more than happy to get you up there if you guys are Midwest based, because them, just like us, are just looking to help people out. And that's really what we're all doing in the community. And if you're not, I don't want to be associated with you, because that's what we should be doing.
Exactly.
But yeah, anyway, anything to add before we bring our guest this week on?
Well, yeah, just guest related. It got me thinking, other than us just chasing down guests too, if anybody listening or even previous guests have ideas of, hey, we would like to see this particular person, can't guarantee we can get the person, but we can reach out and ask. So if you have ideas, we've been doing some brainstorming, had a few meetings and come up with some ideas for 2026. But yeah, if anybody out there wants to shoot us an email or, message in some way, let us know, because if we get enough requests for one person, surely that person will jump on, I would hope. I mean, obviously, I don't think we'll get Tom Cruise or any of the, Hollywood A-listers.
It's like you're going to have to contact my agent. I'm sorry.
But anybody in the industry, yeah, let's give that a shot. So
No, we were very fortunate this week. We've been talking with him for a month now, 3 weeks.
I think so.
I'm just waiting to find a day, because he, just like us, is on the road all the time. So it's Saturday, lunchtime on Saturday, and we're sitting down here getting this thing knocked out. And I want to say thank you very much to him for taking time out on his Saturday to come on and do this. An absolute wealth of knowledge. We joke around about all the letters after people's names and their email signatures. Well, this guy actually has PhD in his. So
Yeah.
step back and listen because he's got a lot to share. But without further ado, let's bring on Howard Penrose with MotorDoc. Howard.
Hey, thanks, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Dude, you taking the time out of your ridiculously busy schedule means a ton to us because I there's not a whole lot that you don't do. So I don't know how you find any time to do anything.
Don't sleep.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Well, that probably should be where we start. Is it for anybody, which I think a lot of people do know you, which
Yeah.
we were discussing before we hopped on here that we had crossed paths, but I had heard of your name a long time ago. So for those that maybe somehow were living in a hole and didn't know who you are, which I suppose there's some people out there, what is your background? Where did you start out?
Oh my gosh.
Well,
So we
I guess
have
we
how
could be
long?
more predict. Yeah. How
Okay,
about in
so
predictive
so
fields?
I've got yeah. Well, the predictive fields go all the way back to when I was in high school. I mean, I worked for Amoco
Huh.
Labs, and I was doing lab and oil analysis on the first synthetic oils
Huh.
in the industry, which was the Amoco Ultimate. So that would have been 82 through 84. They wanted to put me through college, but I instead decided to rebel because of the area I lived in and instead joined the Navy and went the route of electrician and motor repair technician. And so I asked for a small seagoing tug on the West Coast because I grew up in Newfoundland, Canada with the Atlantic. I wanted to see the Pacific. So they put me on the world's largest ship under construction in Newport News. So I learned a lot from that. But what
Okay.
ended up happening is I got there and I was one of the first 100 on board. So I met the captain. I knew the captain. I knew some of the other senior officers and had gone to their houses for dinner and stuff like that. And they started sending me to schools that you usually re-enlisted for. So I went to all the controls schools. I even went to a 8 millimeter projector school, and oh
Wow.
yeah, it was actually the last class given in the Navy, and for that, and
That's
then
crazy.
rewind school, and then I became a rewind journeyman before I was 20.
What?
I was meritoriously advanced to E4 and then E5 because at the time there were so many nuclear power people coming in. It was still the Cold War, and Reagan was all about just shoving as many nuclear power people in as possible and expanding the fleet and stuff like that. And that was, his direction for trying to win that thing, which I was still in when the Berlin Wall fell even. So I'd say most of my shaping for what I do now still comes from that and all the training I got. I was a vibration analyst, I was a balancing person, everything else by the time I was 19.
Wow.
And by the time I was 20, that's when I found out my grandfather and my great grandfather used to run Westinghouse Canada out of Hamilton,
Hmm.
Ontario, and used to rewind all the big generators along the thing. So it turns out I had copper in my blood, so I decided to stay in that.
Makes sense.
Sounds
My
like it might be a medical problem. But
yeah, well, bleed green. Hence the nickname Spock. No, but in any case, at one point while I was in, when we finally went to sea, and it was usually a battle group of about 38 vessels, the captain and the admiral, that because we were the flagship, would direct any repairs to our ship first. So we had right of first refusal. I had the only motor repair shop only on an aircraft carrier. I had 12 people working for me. So by the time I was 20, 21, I was teaching
Oh,
motor repair,
okay.
and I had
Wow.
learned how to design. And I had, at one point, I got a commendation because I was able to get the long range radar motor for the Ticonderoga back up and running because one little 1.5 horsepower motor shut down our capability to do air
huh.
cover for the fleet when we were in the North Atlantic with the Russian fleet just a little ways off. So my nickname, MotorDoc, came from the captain.
Okay.
Captain.
Awesome.
So are
So
you telling me that the criticality of an asset is not directly related to the horsepower.
I'm glad
Is,
you said
Exactly.
is that what you just said?
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
I
glad
have
you
a
said that. I
steel
was
plant
thinking the same
nearby.
thing.
Yeah, I have a steel plant nearby where we had a set of 5,000 horsepower machines, and they focused on those. And every time they went down, when we were brought in to take a look at it, hunted down the problem is a 1.5 horsepower oil pump motor that was taking out, damaging the bearings on these things, basically, whenever
Well,
it
we
goes
had that
down.
MVR fan. What was
Yeah,
that? 800 horse or something. That MVR fan went down because the 15 horse,
Oh,
um, that little pump for the vacuum,
yeah.
it
hmm,
had a vacuum pump on it and it went out. They lost vacuum on it, ran
yeah,
an atmosphere, shook itself apart, and destroyed about a
Yeah.
$750,000 fan because
It's the little guys that
they're like, it's only 15 horse. We'll just throw it away.
yep, yep. Hey, when it fails, it doesn't cost that much. Oh yeah, well, when you're
Yeah.
looking
Yes, it
at
does.
assets from the cost of the component and not the cost of the impact, hence why you've got
Mhm.
RCM and everything else. So in
Sure.
any case, that's where I was also introduced to the concepts of RCM, because I was helping redo the rewind manual for the fleet, or
Okay.
actually for the Navy overall. So we had input. That's where I got introduced to my first civilian employer, a company by the name of Drysulker. So I get out, and a week after I got out, I walked off the ship on a Friday. I spent a week hanging around with friends, and then the Monday, right into the January, the first week of, so it would have been January 2nd of 1989, I walked into my next job and was promptly fired. But and
It
rehired
happens.
before my toolbox rolled out the door. But in any case, yeah, that was interesting because that was my first introduction as a military person, as a veteran going into a civilian company, and I sat down with the supervisor of the motor repair shop, of the rewind department, which is what I had applied for, which was the highest paying area in the company, and he comes in and it's just he and I, and he says, "Well, what's this connection?" And I sat there and I drew out the connection for him. And then he started making them more and more complex, and I was able to meet every one of them because I understood what I was, the layout and everything else. And then when we got done, he says, "I've got to tell them that you don't know anything about rewind." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, if I get you hired into this company, you'll have my job."
Man.
Yeah.
And
How old
and
were
I
you at that
know a
point?
lot of veterans that run into the exact same thing. They walk into a corporate environment uh, you know, unless there's other veterans there that understand what had happened, they'll walk into that environment and discover that they're persona non grata because they know too much. They had to figure it out themselves. They got really well trained. Um, so in any case, I ended up, they put me in the mechanics department, under this guy by the name of George Grady, and our group was referred to as the Grady Bunch. So we did literally
Perfect.
everything, primarily small machines. I got introduced to eddy current clutches and all the specialty motors because I had the capacity to be able to do that stuff. A lot of field service work. I was doing field vibration and everything, but I guess you could almost call it as an apprentice, but it wasn't that kind of program. There was on the job training, and there was some things going on. So I left there and I ran a repair shop in Richmond, Virginia, for a little bit, and then an incident happened. There was a murder suicide at the company, and one of the sons was killed of the owner, and everything just the whole family fell apart. The company was kind of in a shambles. The industry is fully aware of this because it was the biggest event to happen in 1991. And 3 months later, I get a call saying we need somebody who knows how to make decisions because nobody here can make decisions. So I went back there, stepped into an environment of I don't know how you would refer to a company as being psychotic, but we had people who were taking advantage of the situation that had occurred by making subtle threats to managers, that maybe they were the next one, stuff like that. My job was to fix that. And
Holy
so
cow.
they were not ready for former leading person from a motor repair shop in the Navy, and all of the, we'll just call it Navy speak that goes with that. And I was also a bodybuilder at the time. So when people were making their threats towards me, it wasn't physical. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
So I had all of that to deal with. It took us about 6 months to straighten things out. We were lucky, and we had acted on things on time that we didn't see a significant change in quality coming out of that location. So that was my big, wow. And then I started up their field service group, the official one. So my first infrared camera for their, because I'd used one of the ones where you had to take the nitrogen bottle with you and everything else.
Yeah.
This one was one of the ones where you had the battery belt on, and the Sony camera hung on your side, and this big box that you basically had to sling over your shoulder. We started with that. We dug up an IRD fast track, which, by the way, just got retired about 6 months ago. The same one.
Wow.
Yeah.
They don't build them like they used to, huh?
I went through the training with IRD with some of the legends in the vibration industry, and that led later on to like when Dr. Eshelman would lose his voice, I'd be invited in to speak for him, that kind of thing. But I never bothered getting any certification levels.
Huh.
So, I built a reputation then. What I decided to do with the field service group is I didn't want to compete against our competitors. Instead, I let them know we were there, and our job was to go in and literally figure out what nobody else could figure out. So if they had long-term problems and things like that, our job was to go in with whatever tools we had at our disposal, figure out the problem. During all this, I was going to school full-time in the evenings. And I had 2 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and I was a competitive bodybuilder, like competing type bodybuilder until I injured my knee, and then I went into powerlifting. So we get up to 97, and I decided, because I was starting into my PhD program, that I wanted to become an academic, because I was also, from 1992, I was involved in IEEE, in the Dielectrics and Electrical Installation Society, and all of the standards involved in all electrical testing. So my name is on, everything from the IEEE 43 to, specialty testing, insulation systems, the whole thing. At the same time, I was part of the Motor Challenge program, which was a Department of Energy program. And we were writing all of those documents for the DOE that say in the Association of Energy Engineers, all the certified energy managers and all that stuff, they have to refer to those tools as part of their training. I helped write that stuff. So when I was finally allowed to do my CEM recently, because I helped write the stuff, I couldn't take the exam.
What? That's not fair.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
So anyway, yeah, that continued all the way until the last person involved in that retired in 2016. So I continued through that all that time, and I decided it was time to get into academia. So I was asked to join the University of Illinois at Chicago to run the Energy Resources Center on the industrial and utility side. And teach industrial engineering. I'm an industrial engineer, so I'm not an electrical. So as a matter of fact, my bachelor's and master's were hodgepodge of electrical and mechanical engineering, and then my PhD is actually in technical organization management. So it's like a PhD of business management, but for technical organizations, with a bunch of stuff on the technical side. Which was kind of nice, but it's hard to explain to people that, they go, I'm an MBA. And I said, yeah, but I'm a PhD, but yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
Trump
it so that
card, baby. Trump
yeah,
card.
I actually did it because after I got my bachelor's, I went, why am I stopping here? My nickname's MotorDoc.
Right.
It just made sense, right?
And it just went along with the work I was allowed to do. So my bachelor's was how to develop a motor management program. My doctorate was in unique methods of industrial assessments for energy and reliability, which is what the Department of Energy adopted. So the methodology I came up with is being used by a number of states and the DOE to this day. So on how to do assessments. So which was kind of cool. It was useful, and all my students were the researchers that went into the PhD. So we yeah. So I did that, and then part of one of the projects I was involved in. Oh, and before that, by the way, and part of what I taught. So in 1997, for 6 to 9 months, I worked for a company that was doing something that was really fascinating to me called machine learning. So we were doing things like fly-throughs of Nabisco plant equipment using VRML so you could interact with it. I came up with an idea where you could simulate different failures in the production line, and then you would say, okay, here's the failure, here's different models of what that failure means in kind of, cartoonish. And then you could pull up all the documents and everything else. And we had, so you could, what do we call that now? I'm getting lost in names. But it's everything now, but we had to have a supercomputer to run it. So that was part of how I got introduced at UIC, was because we were using their equipment. So so I taught modeling, which was basically machine learning and AI. So I was doing all this stuff back then, and I've continued to do it. People ask how I do so much. It's because I automate everything.
Sure.
Majority of what I do, I have different methods of automating it. It's hard to describe. I turned some of it into tools recently that I started giving to our customers. And, because I didn't think, and I didn't think to myself, nobody's done this yet.
Right.
I mean, that had to be the infancy of VR back then when you were doing that, I got to think, too.
It was not that early. I mean, you have to remember all the stuff we're dealing with now is just as miniaturized, and you can put it on a chip, right?
Yeah.
But all this stuff they're talking about with, neural networks and stuff like that, that all started in the 1950s.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought it was that long.
Everything we're dealing with now is not new. It just became democratized.
Sure.
So all of a sudden, the average person, I mean, hell, most people didn't know what AI meant until November of 2022.
Exactly. That's why I say it seemed like it was the infancy.
We're dealing with right now, all of them, including all this concern about data centers and everything else, all started in 2022. At the end of 2022, technically 2023. So we're less than 3 years into this mess.
So mess is a good word for it too, I think.
I'm kind of getting off path here. So I went and one of the projects I had to play around with some tools. I'd already been involved in something called electrical signature analysis since 1996. I was delving into offline testing, some unique offline testing. I was looking at a couple of companies, PDMA and Alltest, and Alltest offered me a position to run their company. So I went there, and that was a reintroduction back into technical sales and product management and some of the stuff we were talking about earlier. But it was interesting to get thrown into that, and I became involved in helping certain people start their organizations, like some of the big conferences that are going on now. And then, in about 2004, because during that time I put that equipment in the Coast Guard, in General Motors, in certain other military installations, and 66% of the sales were outside of the U.S. So we had that going on there, and all the other stuff, and I just researched what the data meant, because that was what was driving me nuts when I was at the thing was, there's all this technology out there, but I learned very quickly, just because somebody develops a technology doesn't mean they understand it.
Yeah.
And so, they
Truer
call up
words
and
were never spoken.
we've got this data. What does it mean? I've got
Right.
a critical motor at Fermilab we're studying as part of looking at the compressor, the compressor motors on the ring. What does it mean? Well, you have to figure it out. I have to figure it out. Why
Yeah.
do you send me some grant, and my team here at the university will figure it out for you? Well, why don't you come work for us? Okay.
Yeah.
So majority of
Fair
my
point.
time when I well, to be a sales presentation, when I'd go in and we'd test, I'd say, give me a motor that you're having problems with. And we'd go in and we'd figure out what was wrong with it, whether the tool did it or not. But in any
Yeah.
case, what I was doing the whole time was gathering information and publishing like mad. And so then in 2004, um, we'll just say after disagreement with the owner and uh, it was kind of an amusing thing, but the idea was, okay, I was doing so well in sales that he felt he had to make my job harder to slow me down.
Makes
Because
sense.
I think the statement was, "You make more than I do now," and so I said, "Well, I can fix that." So I gave him 3 months and trained the 7 people that had to replace me.
Yeah,
I,
nice.
I didn't realize, my ex-wife said, "Yeah, you were gone that much." um, so, so I went into independent consulting. I first went to a military consultant for a little bit, and I took with me a contract with UAW GM, US Steel, and Amtrak. So multi-year, high dollar, and their view was I needed to bring in a bunch of people into each one. So I had to spread this out amongst a whole group of consultants. And I sat there going, but that's not what I told them. I
Huh.
said, here's what we can do, and here's how we
Yeah.
utilize your people. So I had actually sold them on an independent consultancy. And so when I broke off with them, um, and went on my own, and I gave them a certain portion of the stuff that I actually just didn't want. And I focused. Um, what I did was contrary to what the rest of the industry did. It was the UAW who brought me into General Motors. It wasn't management.
Okay.
So all the folks that were trying to get that contract, they were going to management, but the UAW would have to agree. And the UAW did not want to let me go, to the point where I actually joined the UAW as a journalist. So there
Oh,
was
wow.
a group, yeah. So I know this, I told you it'd be a long story. There's
I like it.
certain tactics you do to hang on, right? Like nobody was going to get me out of there by the time. And then one day in 2000, at the end of 2004, when management was basically telling me that they were going to try to figure out how to get rid of my contract, because I was looking at how to actually fix things.
Yeah.
Not They
Nobody
were
likes
going, no,
that.
pick out lower cost paper towels, and I'm like, I don't do paper towels. I do massive
Right.
equipment stuff. So we put together the motor management program there, which later, after the fall of everything, a couple of managers from GM took credit for. I don't care. But it was the UAW GM that did it. 2004, natural gas prices were spiking. I went to my people and I went across the aisle. I was there 1 week a month. I went across the aisle and I go to one of the energy guys. I go, what help do you guys need in energy? And he's going, well, we're stuck because we have to deal with the local utility, and they aren't really trying very hard to save us money. Their big finding was a leak tag program. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh, great. And I said, what if I could get us like full free assessments of every plant? And he goes, we'll jump all over it. And I said, don't tell your director, because my reputation there was walking through walls. So everything's very siloed. my job was to be the one that everybody blamed because I didn't follow protocol. So I made a call to a friend of mine in the Department of Energy in the morning. By the afternoon, Secretary Bodman, the Secretary of Energy, emailed Wagoner, the CEO of General Motors, saying, "Hey, you got a guy there who suggested we start something. Are you guys into this?" And Wagoner goes, "You mean help us financially?" And he goes, "Well, we can't direct financially. We have to offer this to everybody, but we've got this program we're going to launch because of that phone call called Save Energy Now, which became a huge national program for driving down cost. And I got a thank you email from everybody for that one. It was kind of
Nice.
interesting. The program wasn't my idea. I just called and asked, can we arrange assessments for GM facilities? So by the time I was done, I won 9 UAW GM People Make Quality Happen awards with my team. So it was joint management UAW team as the first non-employee, non-UAW member to win those, including one year I wasn't even there. So, but the program continued. So I count that as one of my bigger victories. But immediately following all of that, in 2007, I get somebody calling me down from the Ren Center saying, "Hey, we want you to come down to the board of directors meetings." And I said, "Well, I'm there next week." He says, "Can you get there this week?" And I said, "I'm at U.S. Steel right now, so I'll have to leave here." And he goes, "You really want to leave there?" So by that time, I had 7 engineers that worked for me that were in-house doing the actual work, but all the companies wanted my name attached to it. So they were doing the work. I was just getting the credit. And so I go down, I go up, and they said, "We've got a problem. We've got a 90% failure rate on the motor, the X20R, which is the motor for the hybrid Tahoe. We need you to go take a look." And they're expecting it to take months or years to figure out. And he says, "But we need to try to get something out the door. We promised everybody a 2008 release." So I went down to the Skunk Works, took a look at the motor, said, "There, that's what you got to fix." It was
Right.
all of 2 minutes. And then all the engineers started handing me all their problems for all these supporting motors, and that's how I got into hybrid vehicles. Since then, by the way, I was involved in the Volt, and then over at John Deere, the 644 and 944 hybrid tractors. So, and used that to develop predictive programs so I can actually tell you the estimated life of a machine. It is something that I was always told that you could not possibly do. We did it. So our estimations, B20 of a machine across our predicted hours and accelerated testing was always accurate within a couple hours. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
I
you
just
do.
knew everybody doing the work in that area. The problem was all of them, because they were told they couldn't complete it. So one guy named Brancato, who was doing DC machines back in the day, he passed away decades ago. But a bunch of other people that were doing work in that area are still around. They would all stop. And all I did was finish their work, tied together.
Yeah.
And then John Deere funded it all. So,
Wow.
so we did that. And then, during all this, I was volunteering. So 2004, I got my CMRP. It was actually, I was protesting the CMRP because I know who was involved in writing it. And, I literally handed my thing in, said, I got half the questions wrong, but I aced this.
Fair.
Apparently it's really, really high. Because I knew who wrote it. This is before it was finally certified, so I got grandfathered into that. That was kind of funny. And then a few years later, I got brought onto the board. The idea was to shake things up on the board because it was all the same companies all the time. And
Are you
so
still
in
on the board
2000,
for us? Are you
no,
still
no,
on the
no,
board
no,
for them? Okay, I didn't know if you were or not.
no. When I finished my past chairmanship,
Yeah.
we'll just say they said they were too exhausted. They needed somebody else who was less intense. If somebody told it, literally, we moved forward in a lot of things. Government relations was my program.
Okay.
It took me 4 years to actually get it working. Um, and so on and so on and so on. I mean, I had a lot of support for it, but it was really kind of pushing. I dealt with the transition from the old management company to the new management company, all that stuff, and then a consultant was in there, and they suggested, because now I'm a past chair of IEEE Chicago, which had 7,500 members. I'm past senior elected whatever in IEEE and other professional societies. So I had a lot of professional society experience
Sure.
going into this. And so they really suggested they had somebody with that experience. So through my time on the board, as secretary, treasurer, and then vice chair, was about when I was really getting moving with my company again. I didn't do very much. When I became chair, I was really pushing everything. And basically, if you said you were going to have something done next week, I held you to it. And,
Yeah.
that can be a little
Some people
intense.
don't like that,
No, no. And the problem
especially
was
in
they couldn't go, well,
volunteer
you're,
organizations.
yeah. And nobody could point at me and say you're being lazy, because if they didn't do it, I did.
Right.
And, and then we had the chair immediately after me. He did his best, but he had transferred to a new position.
Okay.
So in effect, I was still making a lot of decisions as the past chair, um, because I'd make myself available. He and I had an understanding. We would discuss things and everything else. But if they needed an immediate answer, they'd just call
Right.
me. And at the end of that period, it was time for me to leave. And that was just in time for 2020.
So when did MotorDoc LLC start?
Okay, so I started a publishing company in 2001,
Okay.
while I was still at the other company, because
I
the
was
owner
still in
didn't
high
believe
school,
that.
just so you know.
Yeah. They didn't believe they needed a training manual. So I created a motor circuit analysis and energy book.
Okay.
It was understanding the technology and stuff like that. And shopped around and really couldn't find anything where they wouldn't edit it to hell. So I went ahead and started Success by Design.
Okay.
So when I went off on my own, I just kept that company and just changed it from a publishing company, which, by the way, my GSA thing looks ridiculous because it's the same company the whole time, but I
Right.
changed names and I changed capabilities. So it
Huh.
still shows me as a publishing company, even though I just sold the publishing company. So switched it over to a consulting firm, changed it back to a publishing company when I went back to work as VP of Dry Sulker. And then in 2014, um, yeah, no, 2015,
Okay.
switched it back. And then a few months later, so in March, the very end of March, restarted Success by Design, and May 1st, changed the name to MotorDoc.
Okay.
I wanted it to originally be MotorDoc, but my ex-wife didn't like that. So I didn't have an ex-wife anymore. So it was done.
Yeah.
Um, and
Restrictions.
then
So
she
so what
continued
is
working for me.
so
What's that?
with MotorDoc? Tell us a little bit about what you do with MotorDoc exactly.
Which division?
What?
Okay,
I
so
guess
the
what all
first thing I did
divisions do you have?
yeah. So the first thing I did is fake I was a one-person company. Um, but in any case, I'd done quite well over the years. So MotorDoc is kind of my umbrella, and up until
Okay.
recently, that was totally me. Um, then I have different groups. So Success by Design still existed as a publishing company. River Press took over everything from that. Then MotorDoc AI was something I started. That is a partnership with several universities and a bunch of others involved, where we're actually doing development stuff to help skilled trades. So the
Okay.
people will start learning what that stuff is probably later this year.
Okay.
Um, and and we also get involved in other things, like the Department of Energy will bring us in to evaluate at public events. Unfortunately, have us come in and kind of ask questions about some of the AI stuff around things like
Sure.
detection of faults and stuff like that. I've been exposed to a lot as a direct result, but that group kind of is a think tank. This year, and it's kind of amusing because I still tell the story. I got on a plane and there was this guy sitting next to me, and I don't talk to people on planes. I'm usually writing a paper in my head. Most people, if somebody goes, well, you drive like 14 hours to a site. What are you doing? It's like, well, I'm writing papers in my head. I'm planning and I'm doing other things. That's just how I work. There's no distractions driving that. And then I have it all written in my head and I just type what I see. It's just something that it actually runs in my family. My brother does it. My dad does it. I was sitting there, and for some reason, this guy next to me and I start talking, and he brings up his son, who had been looking for an internship as an ME, and wasn't able to find one. He really wanted to get involved in the energy industry, and I go, really? So I happen to know one or two people in the energy industry because at the time I was the chair of standards for American Clean Power, and also had just been appointed from IEEE as the A1 chair for CGRE for the U.S. And CGRE is an international body of utility equipment. So all of the grid stuff that's going on, all of the research related to that's CGRE.
Okay.
So it's on the global perspective. So we do all the studies and everything else. So they appointed me as A1, which is all power generation. So whether it's solar, wind, steam, you name it, because of my background, that's what they put me in charge of. Used to be just rotating equipment and large electric motors. So I said, I know a few people. And so I said, have him send, here's my card. Have him send me his resume. I got the resume. I could see why he was having problems. So I said, hey, stop being so honest in your resume. What have you done in Scotland? We went back and forth. He made it, he not dishonest, but he made it into a resume, not like,
right.
I did McDonald's last summer. It was like, yeah, in school, I developed a smartwatch and I did this and that. And it's like, yeah, that's what they want to see. Not that you did nothing while you were at school.
No.
So I hadn't met the son at all. And then one day, everybody, let's just say last year was not particularly friendly towards certain industries in the utility industry. So he wanted to be involved in wind. So I said, stop by, we'll talk, and I'll see where else I can get you introduced. He came in, I hired him on the spot. So
really?
He's my intern still, and I'm trying to help him get into a master's program now. And then other things changed, and I ended up bringing on Janine, who's the former executive director for the Vibration Institute. She's now our new business person.
Okay.
Basically, I said, what do you want to do? She goes, well, I want to do this. I said, well, you can have all of this so I can breathe a little. So in both cases, put them through a lot of training. Like the first thing I did with Amar is because I wanted him to help me develop a vibration analysis software to go along with one of our new products.
Okay.
I said, okay, I want you to create the interface for it, but in order to do that, you're going to go in the field, you're going to learn vibration, we're going to do this and that, we're going to send you to school. So he went to one of the schools and got his level 1. So,
okay.
that we all funded. So that's, and then Janine is doing a bunch of stuff in the marketing area. And it's kind of nice because I know she's getting offers and been turning them down. So
are you going to add the tagline philanthropist to your LinkedIn profile and business cards as well?
I've
then
been a philanthropist for a very long time.
It feels like you really need to advertise that.
Yeah.
Because If
No,
reliability
no,
U
because
doesn't work out for me and Brett, we're calling you for a job.
That's right. Yeah.
yeah. No, no. For other things I've been involved in, raised a lot of money for different, veteran and
Yeah.
children stuff. I was an athlete. I was I was Team USA powerlifter from 2012 all the way until I had my heart attack. Um,
Are
we,
you
we won't
still
get into that because
powerlifting?
no, I still
Okay.
train, but not with a group anymore because, I'm
Brett
on
and I
blood
power
thinners.
lift these guys. Does that count?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Let's just say
Two
my
hands
bench has
sometimes.
probably dropped down to about
Yeah.
500 still from
Yeah.
six.
Oh, only. Yeah. I couldn't lift my weight, man. So you're doing way better than me. Hey, so
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
tell us a little bit about Chaos and Caffeine. I've been watching that some, and it's
Oh,
entertaining. How did that idea come to fruition?
well, I had started another podcast which became a little too trainy. It was like a series uh, just training videos, I guess you could call
Okay.
it. And it all related to a joke that started a few years back on something called Reliasquatch.
I love that. I
Uh,
love Reliasquatch because
yeah.
so I've seen the things with like so you got Reliasquatch and then you've got Captain Unreliability and like somebody had put a
Oh, I'm
thing
not
out
Captain
there.
Non-Reliability. Not me. That's
Well,
Reliability
right, but
X.
I saw like somebody had taken all of those AI generated
Hmm.
like mascots, we'll call them, and put them into a
Yeah.
group together on LinkedIn. And it was like,
Yeah. Good idea.
Oh,
and I'm sitting
really?
here
I
thinking,
haven't seen that yet. That'd
yeah,
be awesome.
somebody had put them like all together, and it was like a celebrity fucking cage fight or something between. I'm like, that is
Oh
really
man, I gotta
cool.
go find that.
So I'm sitting here thinking, and Brett was out of state, but I'm thinking it's like, man, I need to get a hold of Brett because we need to come up with some kind of
Mascot.
mascot
Well,
for.
see, it was one of those things that was extremely organic. So
Okay,
I was driving from here to northern New York to
okay,
a data center, well, a cryptocurrency center, because we were involved in a harmonic issue they were having that was affecting the local town as well. So I made like 6 trips up there. Well, I drive, and part of the drive is through the Adirondacks. So of course
beautiful
there's
drive, by the
Sasquatch
way.
stuff. Man, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is a really nice drive, and every time I went, it was a different route, right?
Okay,
So because my thing would take me one route because it was winter and those roads were closed, da da da. So the first trip up there, I didn't think about it, and I see all the Sasquatch stuff, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I posted something on LinkedIn when I stopped for gas, and I said, yeah, I'm seeing Sasquatch everywhere. It's kind of like trying to find a good reliability program. And so
Yeah.
somebody, yeah, one of the people actually the people that I was working for on that trip, their marketing guy sat down and he did an AI image of a Sasquatch. He'd been in my truck before with the interior of my truck with his wind turbines on the hillside in the background
okay.
and a
Awesome.
Navy sitting there. So it was like, it was supposed to be me, right? And it was a bit of a hit. So we just started coming back and forth with these, Sasquatch memes for a while. It wasn't until um, early 2025 that I just started calling him Reliasquatch, and I started making some cartoons up, some
Right.
I practice with the new tools all the time, right? So I want to see if something comes out better in ChatGPT. So I'll go to something else and I'll run, an image on there, say, hey, create me a cartoon page with Reliasquatch doing this and this and this, and here's what he looks like. So I had all the prompts set up, and because I always made fun of people who said, oh yeah, I went to school to be a prompt engineer.
Yeah.
And sadly, that's a thing.
Yeah. So
Well,
I got
it
a
wasn't
question
just
for
a
both
thing.
of
It
you.
started out, it started out as a joke, and as a matter of fact, it's like the term vibe programming. I don't know if you've heard
Yeah.
that term. So if you've seen me ever use the term vibe consulting, it doesn't refer to vibration. It refers to the concept, like as in vibe programming. The whole idea of vibe programming is you give a prompt, you don't know anything about software, and you allow the AI to generate your program from scratch. So you go
Okay,
with the
Cool.
vibes. It's got all kinds of problems to it. So the term came about when GE put out an April Fool's joke on social media saying they were looking for vibe programmers and pay was like a couple $100,000 a year. And it was a joke. So people, what you learn on the internet is people don't comprehend the idea of humor. So you had
Sometimes, yeah.
people in overseas countries who jumped on the idea of vibe consulting. I mean,
right.
vibe programming. So I later termed vibe consulting and then realized, oops, my vibration friends aren't going to like that. But it was somebody who would use AI as their consulting, as their mean to provide consulting. And unfortunately, there's a lot of those out there. You just don't realize it until you start looking at what they're doing. Some of them,
Right.
like some of the big names in consulting, are now using, AI and replacing their people. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and you can watch every kind of as a result. I'm sorry, you had a question. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I
No,
spoke over
I
you.
was, I was thinking with all three of us kind of being in the industry and traveling around quite a bit over the years, it
Hmm.
made me think, talking about some of the places we travel, what would you guys both say, not personal vacations, but work has taken me to the site. What was the coolest place that you thought you got to go to do the kind of work we're doing? Because, like, I'll start off because mine, I was thinking West Point Academy. I got to go to West Point Academy years ago to do some thermography and motor circuit analysis testing. Very cool place. I'd never, it's hard to get access in there anyway. You have to go through certain security things,
Right.
but very cool site. How about you guys? Any cool locations you got to go to for work?
Mine is gypsum mines.
Oh,
I love going down in the gypsum mines because you can drive, 4, 5, 6 miles back through those tunnels. And it's just so cool
Yeah.
because you're cut off from the world and you're realistically only, 80 to 100 feet, 80 to 100 feet from the ground. You're
yeah.
not, well, sometimes
Hmm.
depending on the mine, but I love going down in those things.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's like, because if they turn the truck lights off,
It's pitch black.
you're
Oh
dead. I
yeah.
mean, it is pitch. I mean, you completely lose all spatial awareness. It's just, to me, that's
Now
really
the
cool working in those mines.
I remember because I had a question about what I was seeing. We were in a salt mine,
Oh, yeah.
and it
Those are
was
fun.
Cleveland, right? Morton Salt, 2,000 feet down, 2.5 miles under the lake. And the guy said, "Watch this." He turns off the lights, and it was pitch black. But once in a while, it'd be like a spark, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"What the
You guys
heck?"
seeing
And I
this?
go, "Is it?" And he goes, "No, it's literally it's stuff interacting and see random photons that come out as a direct result of materials breaking down." It
Huh.
was
That's,
and
that's
that
cool.
actually it was interesting because it was an epiphany. It was like, oh, that's right, that's how, and then it's led me down a certain paths on infrared and everything else down,
Salt
when we
mines,
were
that is
discussing
cool.
that.
I have spent some time in a
Yeah,
salt mine before as well, and
they're
that is a pretty
massive.
unique
Yeah,
location. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them now they're using for
I got to go.
storage, like one of
I
the
was going to
places in
say
Kansas,
Weeks Island.
Say
they,
Saline
Yeah.
County, Kansas
yeah,
is where.
yeah, they
Yeah.
store like
Yeah.
movie props and like historic documents and things underground
Oh,
because of the temperature control and things like that. It's cool.
so Weeks
So
Island in Louisiana. That's one of the locations for the oil reserves. They actually flood the salt mines with oil.
Oh
oh
yeah,
wow.
that's cool.
We
I thought that
we
was
went
cool. I had to go down and do there once.
we went down and took, and this wasn't for work, but we went down in those mines just outside of Salina, Kansas.
Yeah.
That whole, like, Saline County is
It's,
nothing but salt mines, and
Hmm.
I went down in one of the just like public tours of that, and
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like it's just massive. And I remember I went into a Martin Marietta mine up in northern Iowa one time, and they were saying the mine. We drove down this path, and we were actually looking at one of their the bucket elevators for the crushers, And we went down there because we were looking at doing some like permanently installed vibration sensors on them. And there's this lake that you can see, this underground lake, and it goes back as far as the eye can see. And they got, like, I don't know how many, like, million lumens, but these floodlights push back in there. And I asked the guy, I said, how far does this go back? And they're like, honestly, nobody knows. Like, they've never figured that out because they're like, they think it goes under like 8 or 9 counties.
Wow.
And for those people that, maybe listening that aren't from Iowa, I mean, Iowa's the 25th largest state as far as like square miles is concerned geographically. We're like right in the middle. It's a decent sized state, not massive, but pretty decent sized state. And we have 99 counties in Iowa. So for a lake to go under 7 of those counties, that's a big fucking lake. I don't care how you cut it. And they were saying they've had guys go down there with like battery powered floodlights and go out on like little John boats with electric trolling motors and like tool back in there. And nobody's made it longer than about 20 minutes because all the bats.
I want to go.
Then they're like, we're out of there because they're getting bombarded with bats. But it was like just so cool down there. And the stuff that they do in those mines too, because they'll go down there and like you're saying, because you got to get your little tag to go in because you got the MSHA requirements. So they know who's in the mine in case of a cave in or whatever.
The rock fall and the little copper thing will survive. You
won't, but they'll be able to find your dog tag. So, but we went down one of those and driving around. They got to drive. It's got to be a diesel pickup because it'll destroy the rock. It's like all these little nuances. But then you go down there and the whole time, like everybody that works there is sitting down there. That's where they go down to smoke.
Which sounds really.
They just sit down in the mine and just chain smoke cigarettes, and it's like it's very crazy to me.
Well, and I mean that would go into my next topic on that is like the coolest place you've been, and I'm not going to name any names, and you don't have to either if you want to be involved in this conversation. But like some of the most. Like some of what we do, we get behind the scenes and we pull back the curtain and we see things we're like, I wish I wouldn't have known that. And one of those, which again, not going to name a specific name, but they were manufacturing gelatin. And I thought, Jello, gelatin, this should be pretty clean.
Jello's a name brand.
Oh, sorry.
So watch it. Jello's a name.
Gelatin product.
You learned what gelatin is.
Anyway. Very nasty. The beginning process of that, what I saw, I was like, I had no idea but yeah. And I'm sure you guys have come across. I
mean, I've been to some pet food plants that are that way, but then I've also been to some pet food plants that are like,
human food plants where you're like, oh my gosh.
But I've been to some pet food plants where it's like, this is cleaner than any kitchen you've ever been in.
Probably cleaner than McDonald's.
Yeah, and then you've been to other ones that it's like, oh my God, I'm not feeding that to my dog. I mean, I don't even like my dog, to be fully transparent.
Even human food, right? I've been to a few candy plants, we'll just say, and you can tell the ones that you want to buy for your family or for Halloween based upon the fact that if they put a tray out of the mislabeled stuff, how fast it takes for it to disappear. So I've been in the places where the tray doesn't make it to a counter. And then I've been in other places where the tray's been sitting there for a week. Full.
Right.
Well, one of my experiences too was at
favorites.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Howard. Sorry.
I'll finish later.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I would, when I was younger, I was heavily involved. I always looked at things like, business and ethics always comes from how people did warfare, right? So one of the areas I had always been interested in high school, one of my history teachers turned me on to Sun Tzu before it became popular. And so I read all the Sun Tzu, Sun Pin, all the military so I really wanted to see Asia, because I read some of the documents out of, the Five Rings and the other books from Japan. And so I haven't been to Japan yet. It was like, see, I haven't been to the Philippines or Japan or Hawaii. And, but I had an opportunity in 2002 to go to mainland China. So it started out in Beijing, and then I tootled around all the way down through Wuxi. And part of the deal was that I would go out and I would do this training so long as I got to see like Ming's tombs, climb the Great Wall, do that stuff, see the Forbidden City. So they took me, the Chinese government took me on a private tour of the
That's cool.
Forbidden City, and
That's-
that meant you walk down a bicycle path, and you would see crowded. The each of the courtyards would be just crowded with people, right? And there were a lot of courtyards. It's a huge place. Every emperor had their own estate, basically in the Forbidden City. So you'd come out, and as a special guest, they would have them all cleared out by the time you hit the end of that aisle, that little alleyway, and then you had 20 minutes with nobody else there.
That's
So
cool.
like the courtyard where they have all the movies and stuff, I got to hang out there. I actually got a full half hour there. I had all kinds of pictures of it and everything else. I snuck a few pictures in Ming's tombs because it was jail time if they caught you. Well,
Hey,
you
we're
weren't allowed
live,
to take
Howard.
pictures.
Yeah. Oh,
It
crap.
was. I don't care. I'm not going to.
Statute of
I'm not gonna
limitations.
send anybody
I don't know what the
for
statute of limitations in China
Yeah.
is,
Well,
but
I
you
mean-
might be fucked.
Yeah. Who cares? So in any case, the terracotta soldiers that everybody talks about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason they're very, very cautious about anything, including photography, has to do with the fact that when they opened that area up, they were all fully painted, like they had skin tone and everything, and it only took 48 hours for all of that to crumble off
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's
as
crazy.
soon as they exposed it. As a matter of fact, they found some massive tombs in the same area for that emperor, as a matter of fact, where they haven't even entered it because they don't know what'll happen. That kind of thing. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. So from that standpoint, I think the favorite spot I had there was Turtle Head, which was it was an island in the middle of a lake, very, very peaceful. And this island was used to be full of monks, and each monk had to carve out, a Buddha type thing. So it was a Buddhist temple, and this was before, and they'd kept everything. There was even a giant pure gold Buddha at the entrance. I've got a beautiful picture
That's
of that.
cool.
And that was cool. So from that standpoint, that was there. The other cool thing I got to deal with was all of the reactor coolant pumps for Korea and hydronuclear power. So while I get to do a lot of cool things in a lot of environments here, that was probably the coolest because, well, I got to see things I probably wasn't supposed to. And then in the U.S., I'd say my favorite is I don't really have a favorite. I could go, okay, one of our small clients is a little company called Union Pacific, and then we have other stuff like that. So we get to be involved in, I mean, a lot of
Cool
a lot of OEMs use us. I'm heavily involved in wind in particular, but a little bit in solar and battery, but primarily wind. And I'm considered right now one of the top global researchers on reliability for the equipment. So and share a couple of standards on like DGA for the transformers and stuff. So we're because nobody else will do it. So we funded the studies and we're doing that. So hard to say. Everything from watching how standards are made to
So it's kind of like
to
asking
visit
you the
places when
question, who's your favorite kid?
Yeah.
They're all my favorite, but
Yeah.
in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
regardless,
I hit a point.
I think what we're saying here too is listening to your background. If there's anybody listening to this podcast that's not really into this predictive thing, which how would there be somebody?
Yeah, why would somebody be?
But let's just say somebody passed it on to somebody. What I'm saying is, like, when I get an audience of young people, this is what I tell them is, look at all the cool things you get to do doing this job. Look at where you get to go. Look how you get to pull the curtain back on all these different places. All the opportunities we have in this field is amazing. And I think you've proven it. I mean, when you started talking about your background up to just only being 21 years old, for crying out loud, and all the stuff you got to do was amazing. I think this, I hear in a lot of my classes that there's a ton of people retiring out of this. And it worried me in the beginning that, like, okay, what are we going to do? You know, what's this industry going to do? But people like you, and hearing this, if we can get this message out to the right people, young people, this is a great job. So even if you're just a guy listening to this podcast, tell your kids, tell your grandkids, people coming up, tell your nephews, whatever, get into this field. We need people in it. It is hard to find experienced people doing it. Go through the training, get out there and do it, and before you have kids, do that traveling thing. Get out and see the world. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That opened my eyes up to so many different things, and not just culturally, but like being at a job. I was at the same corn milling facility for 8 years straight doing the same thing. And I thought I had this whole thing figured out. I'm like, as a vibe guy, I'm like, I've done this 8 years at this place. I know what a pump looks like. I know what a fan looks like. Then you go somewhere else. You go to, let's say, any other industry like power generation or pharmaceutical or whatever. And you're like, wow, I have no idea. I had no idea. I was missing out on all this stuff. Traveling is so important. So that's the message. If I could get that out to young people, get into this field. And then before you have kids and settle down with the family, see the world. Take the opportunity to travel, do this. No, you'll never will. And you'll have so many good stories like we have. And that's what I was just looking at. I'm like, holy cow, we've been talking for almost an hour.
No, it's over an hour.
It is. Yeah. So
officially over an hour.
We've got to wrap up, but you see how fun it is for us to talk about this stuff. And that could be you guys, this younger generation. You could be like reminiscing about the old times and talking about where we've been and things we've seen. And it's
I agree.
So fun.
Every time I get on a podcast, a question will come up and I'll remember something that I'd forgotten about or just, hadn't mentioned.
Absolutely.
So every time I'm on a podcast, it's always a little different. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember when I did this, or I remember when I did that. And that is kind of fun, but you're absolutely right. That's one of the biggest things. I mean, when I go into even standards meetings and stuff like that, I'm still the youngest person there.
Yeah.
And I'm turning 60 this year.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, happy birthday early.
You look good, bud. So.
Yeah. I lived a bad life.
No, you did not.
So are we going to see you over in Ashland? Are we going to see over in Ashland this year if there is a conference?
Yeah, SMRP.
For SMRP, Nebraska, Iowa? Over at Strategic Air Command. Yeah. You coming over for that this year?
If there is, absolutely.
If there is one?
Absolutely. That was a lot of fun, yeah.
So we'll have to catch up if we do that.
I didn't go to the big SMRP conference last year, and everybody thought that was one of the conferences I was talking about when I said I was not going to go to commercial conferences that were just too salesy. No, it was because I had to be in Croatia at the time. No, that was the
sounds a little more fun.
Another one I had to miss because I was in Croatia for Seagray as well. It's just like this summer. It's like I was hoping that certain conferences wouldn't fall certain dates because I have to be in Paris for Seagray. That stuff like that is that position. That's probably the most important position I've ever served. And for your U.S. audience, they have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you're talking to anybody involved in utilities outside the United States, everybody knows what I'm talking about.
So Mark Linsky, if you're listening to this, my Irish buddy, you'll know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark knows quite well what's going on there.
He was asking when we were going to be doing another podcast, and I told him we were having you on this weekend, and he's like, "When's it going to be live?" And I'm like, "You got to give me a couple days to get this thing edited, but I'll get it up quick." But
yeah, Howard, we appreciate you coming on, man.
And I will say. Yeah,
it's been fun.
I will say before, especially even the younger folks, because I can be a little abrupt in text, like on LinkedIn. I go, why isn't the person arguing back with me? And then I look at what I wrote and it's like, oh,
That's why.
yeah, I have no problem people reaching out to me. I don't really get angry at anybody.
So
It might come across abrupt.
what is the best way?
What's that?
If somebody wants to contact Howard Penrose, how do they do it? What's the best way? LinkedIn or email, or what's best for you?
Well, email's fine. Howard at MotorDoc.com is probably the easiest one to remember, and that's not DOCK, by the way. It's MOTORDOC. And LinkedIn, the LinkedIn/IN/MotorDoc takes you to me.
Okay.
And then the
Okay.
company also falls under MotorDoc. I have a rule here. I see all communications. I've worked for organizations where leadership doesn't do that, and then
Fair.
when something happens by surprise, they're caught off guard, and I've had that happen way too often in other positions. And people
Brett and I don't have
realize
that
I've been
problem. We don't have
executive.
anyone to do that for us.
So, yeah, I've been an executive in large organizations before for short periods because I can't stand it. I've been an academic,
Yeah.
for a short period because I couldn't stand it. I'm exactly where I want to be.
Good.
Well, good for you. And
But yeah, I have no problem people reaching out. The government relations thing we did at SMRP was primarily there to make sure we could get funding for skilled trades, which, by the way, most people don't know. It was SMRP that got the Perkins Reauthorization Act across the finish line with 2 visits to the White House. So
Nice.
In 2018. And the congressman is my congressman that was heading that up. So that gave us a bit of a leg up as well. And it went through unanimous in both the Senate
wow,
and Congress. Yeah.
That's
in
great.
a contentious time. So, things like that. So I'm a strong believer in that. I'm a strong believer in people working safe and so on. So, and I'm not stuck on any particular technology. I mean,
Good.
so if people have questions about technology, if I don't know it, I know the people that do, right? Like you guys.
Yeah, that's what
That's how
Adam and I
words
say.
to live by, man. Words to live by. I'm not going to bullshit
Yeah,
you, but
no,
I'll get you in
exactly.
touch with the right person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
Exactly.
but we appreciate
So,
you coming on. It's
yeah,
been
it's
a pleasure getting to kind of know you because, I mean, I didn't know all that history from. I knew a little bit about your background, but that was pretty impressive. Up to 21 years old, you were in some major stuff.
All
to be honest.
I knew is you
Yeah.
were a Sasquatch and a bodybuilder. That's all I knew. So, I mean, this really opened my eyes, Howard. I want you-
Bodybuilder, if you look at my stomach, I built my stomach, but that's because I was a
Yeah.
I was a
Well,
bench
we are
press.
too.
We're working. We're all working on it, man.
Yeah.
We're all working on it.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming
Everybody
on, man.
goes,
Thank you
gotta
for taking
pick
the
me up."
time out.
Like, yeah, so I don't have to bring the bar down as far. Yeah, absolutely. So,
Especially on a Saturday of all
appreciate it.
things.
Yeah.
But
Well,
we appreciate
I
you.
did my podcast a little before you. Yeah.
Right. Well,
Um,
if you ever need
So
if you ever
I
need
try
a
to get
guest,
it done and out the same day.
okay.
I'm sorry.
We were on Greg's podcast 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We were his
Yeah.
first 2026 podcast on CMMS Radio. So if you ever want me or Brett or both of us to jump on and just rap with you, be happy to do so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Always happy to trade back. Not that I'm trying to, weasel my way into your shit.
But why
by any-
not?
But
Yeah,
we're here
that
for you.
sounds pretty good. I
Appreciate
told people I was going to try to get some guests on this time, but you do have to bring on your
We are
favorite
willing.
coffee and explain
Okay.
why
My-
it's your favorite coffee. That's
Because it's
part of it
delicious.
is yeah.
That's my favorite coffee right
Oh
there.
yeah.
That's not.
I'm just a Dunkin' Donuts original guy, man. Dunkin' OG
That's fine.
is
I did.
That's the way to
this morning.
go.
I did this morning.
So long
I
as
did
it's dark.
Starbucks because they had
Yeah.
they had that Dubai chocolate thing, and I fell in love with Dubai chocolate. Right.
Okay.
So I went and grabbed that.
I actually
It was terrible.
I got one this morning. There's a little coffee shop just up the road from my house called Java Rocket.
Yeah.
And she's got some really good coffee up there, and she started things. So a good friend of mine here in locally, he's actually the Grand Poobah or whatever they call it of the Elks organization here in my hometown. Guy by the name of
Yeah.
Chad Willis found out he has brain cancer. He's got a brain tumor, and they're doing a bunch of.
Oh, no.
So I play in a couple. I play in a couple different bands, and we're doing a big benefit at the end of February. Our band's going to get. I think they have 11 bands playing that day, doing a big benefit show for him.
Cool.
Well, Chloe up at the coffee shop was nice enough. She created a drink called the Fighter, and every time you buy one, she's giving the proceeds back to benefit him. So it's like, it looks a little sweet and creamy for me because I'm more just like black coffee, splash of milk, and we're good to go. But I ordered one this morning just because I wanted, I wanted to support Chad, and I'm like, I'm going to order one of those. The fucking thing was delicious. I must tell you, it was, I don't know what's in it, but it was good. So there's a lot out there. But anyway, I digress. Howard, thank you again for taking the time out on a Saturday. Anybody out there listening, do us a huge favor. Like the podcast, follow us. Make sure you're subscribing to this. It helps the algorithm a lot, as we all know. I was told by my wife I'm not allowed to say smash that like button because I got a 10-year-old, a 6-year-old, and 2.5-year-old twins. So our life is pretty much fucking YouTube on the TVs at all time. And I've heard smash that like button 1,000 times. I think that's what you're supposed to say.
I got it figured out. You don't have to. Guys, smash that like button.
Ooh, that sounded good, didn't it? Sounded real good. But anyway, we appreciate you, brother, very much.
Thanks,
and
nice to meet you.
We'll be seeing you in April, my friend.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Yes,
we'll see you.
Yes, you will.
All right, man.
Thank you.